Shalom Elakim, Yisrael, Yehonathan Dawid with you here humbly. So, as we continue this Bamil Otah series on Yahweh for Hebrews and Christians, going to be downloading exclusively on the YouTube channel. So please subscribe, support, share, like, and all that stuff to get this ministry out. This will be released on the 3rd of September 2023 of the year of their Lord. And today's segment is, Are You Blind? Are you blind? Hayim ata avil. Hayim ata avil. Are you blind? Now, trumpets, like I said, Yahweh for Christians is celebrating trumpets on what they call the September the 14th at 9:40 p.m. That's when you will have a new moon, 9:40 p.m. At that day, we'll probably do like a short segment talking about trumpets and what it's about and its significance. And then, of course, 10 days later, you have atonement. And I might do a longer segment on atonement. And then, of course, Sukkot is 5 days after that. So, I'm not sure where I'm going to celebrate Sukkot. I might even do it out here where I am now, in this beautiful park. But talking about last week, in the segment we did about the adulterous wife, and talking about how everything, all the pressure is on Yahweh Shua. Everything points to him. The accusation is really against Yahweh Shua. And he takes on that role that rightly belongs to us. And he's the one that is accused. He also is the scapegoat. Remember, in several places, but Luke 4:28-30, where after convicting the scribes, Pharisees, and the leaders, they wanted to seize him and throw him over the cliff. Why did they want to throw him over a cliff? This was a tradition handed down by Edomites and our forefathers, and actually by our forefathers, of throwing the scapegoat over the cliff, which was never sanctioned by Yahweh. We were supposed to release the scapegoat into the wilderness, a far off place. But Edomites would take the goat and rape him and abuse him and send him back to Israel. Now, talk about being cursed. They would say, oh no, Israel's going to be cursed for a whole year because the scapegoat comes back. So what did they start doing? Is they just started throwing the goat off the cliff to make sure he died and couldn't come back. So here we now, Yahweh Shua is being accused also. Not only is he the adulterous bride, he's the scapegoat. They try to throw him off the cliff. He is the unfaithful, he is the harlot in the house of the father. They accuse him of that. They even said they were not children of fornication, trying to say that he was born from fornication because his father was married to his mother at the time of his birth. We also know that, so the harlot daughter, let's look at some scriptures here. Numbers 5:11-13 gives us the adulterous bride ordinance. And then the harlot daughters, Deuteronomy 22:13-21. The false prophet, Deuteronomy 13. Yahweh Shua was accused of being a false prophet, giving testimony of himself. And then you have, of course, he's been accused of blasphemy. And that comes from Leviticus 24:14-16. They saying he was an idol worshiper, Leviticus 20:2, worshiping himself and honoring himself. They accuse him of witchcraft, Leviticus 20:27, multiple times as a Shabbat violator, Numbers 15:32-36. He got judged as a rebellious son, Deuteronomy 21:18-21. And we know that a woman who was raped in the city and didn't cry out, then she would be accused of, she was not raped because she didn't cry out. If she was in the field, she had to cry out. Otherwise, she'd be judged for that. That's Deuteronomy 22:23-27. All of these violations under the laws of Moshe calls for stoning and or burning or hanging. These are violent judgments against violence against the Torah. And this is why in the last days, because all these were misappropriated to Yahweh Shua. Remember, he took on our infirmities. He took this on. He received all this. and how he will be declared innocent is only at the end if he resurrects. And we know he resurrected. Hallelujah. Yahweh resurrected, so he was innocent of all these charges. But will the wicked ones in the last day receive retribution, or will they be slate wiped clean? Well, we see hellfire is going to come down. That is Yahweh stoning them for their adultery, for their fornication, for their idol worship. They are going to be burned. They're the ones who practice witchcraft. They're the ones who are the rebellious ones. So all the judgment that was misappropriated to Yahweh Shua, who came up clean and innocent, is going to be reapplied to the wicked ones, to the men of wickedness. We know that Yahweh Shua is eternal. He is infinite. And no one thing can describe infinity. No one thing can describe the eternal one. There's no one word, no one event, no one day, no one thing for the man who is limitless, housing his body, his limitlessness in a limited body. By his death and endless life are we saved. Yahweh Shua is the lion and the lamb, the ruddy heifer, the donkey, the dove, the light of the world, salt of the earth. He is the door, the good shepherd, the rock, living water, the bread of life, tree of life, the way, the olive, and the towel. All these things, and this is just a small segment, points to him. And in that short three plus years of life on this earth, in that limited body, he demonstrated this in every way. Each one of these things highlighted how he was. The ruddy heifer healed everything. Everything around Yahweh was healed. We know that you could not keep a donkey unless you redeemed it with a sheep. So he is the lamb, and he sacrificed himself, and he rode on the donkey as a king. Dove, that's the lowest offering you can give. It was the most economically, it was the cheapest thing you can give. So he is the lowest to the highest, from a dove to riding on a donkey. We know he's the tree of life, the bread of life, the water of life. He is the light, the way. He is the salt. He's everything. He is the Torah. So we need to check ourselves and seek resonance with Yahweh's word and get out of our boxed understanding of Yahweh Shua. Get out of our boxed narrative of him and what we see him as, and how he is supposed to do what he is supposed to do. And this is what happened to the leaders. They did not want to see this man as their Messiah because he did not fit what they see as a Messiah. And Edomite leaders did not want this man because he was seeking a new way of having access to Yahweh, of whom they wouldn't even use his name, except, was it on the Day of Atonement? So here we go. Yahweh Shua shatters, like I said, the glass onion, all of their norms, all of the standard reality that they had, all of the box understanding they had of this man. He shatters all that. No one could, this whole covenant that Yahweh had before the foundation of the world goes beyond what the created mind could even fathom. You remember Hasatan, he's ancient, and all the wicked ones, they didn't see this coming. No one saw this as being the way of redeeming the lost. They see it as a power play through the seed of the man, but it's the seed of the woman. That's why they hounded Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Dawid. None of this, he didn't come through none of that. It was through the woman. That's he said in the Garden of Eden. Let's look at this mystery. 1 Corinthians 2. We are talking about Are You Blind? We'll get to that. But let's look at this mystery that I just said that can only be understood by Ruach HaKodesh. Reading from 1 Corinthians 2, it goes, And I, brethren, when I came to you, did I not come with excellence of speech or wisdom, declaring to you the testimony of Yahweh? Because I determined to know nothing among you except Yahushua HaMashiach and him executed. I was with you in weakness and fear and in much trembling, and in my speech and in my preaching were not persuasive words of human wisdom, but in demonstration of the Ruach and of the power of your faith should not be in the wisdom of men, but in the power of Yahweh. However, we speak wisdom among those who are mature, yet not the wisdom of this age, nor of the rulers of this age, who are coming to nothing. But we speak the wisdom of Yahweh in a mystery, the hidden wisdom which Yahweh ordained before the ages of glory, which none of the rulers of this age knew, because had they known, they would not have executed the master of glory, the master of kabod. The things I'm saying here plainly and simply, you will not understand this mystery that's plenty before your face and ears unless you receive Yahweh Shua in your heart of your mind as the way he said he is. It is written, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor has entered the heart of man the things which Yahweh has prepared for those who love him. Even in our greatest imagination, no one knew that this is how it would be. That he would come in born of a virgin 15-year-old girl, albino, short, small, with a limp, speaking old Hebrew, and in poverty and being slain. This is not what a creative mind could fathom. But Yahweh has revealed to us through the Ruach HaKodesh. Because the Ruach searches all things, yes, the deep things of Yahweh. Because what man knows the things of man except the spirit of a man which is in him? You know, a bird can't understand me because it's a bird. Only a man can understand man. And what? Even so, no one knows the things of Yahweh except the spirit of Yahweh. You must have a spiritual understanding, understand the spirit of Yahweh. And this is what they were not getting, because all they had was a physicality of the law of Moshe. Now we have received not the Ruach of this world, but the Ruach is from Yahweh, that we might know the things that have been freely given to us by Yahweh. Freely given. This is another opposition with the temple access to Yahweh, which was a monetary system and a bloody system. These things we also speak, not in words which man's wisdom teaches, but which the Ruach HaKodesh teaches, comparing spiritual things with spiritual. That is what we're doing here on Yahweh for Hebrews and Christians. But the natural man does not receive the things of the Ruach of Yahweh, because they are foolishness to him, nor can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. But he who is spiritually judges all things, yet he himself is rightly judged by no one, because he who has known the mind of Yahweh, that he may instruct him. But we have the mind of the Anointed One. Please, Yisrael, I'm praying. I got 58 followers. Let's increase that. Let's understand what we're saying here. Please do not call yourself waking up and putting yourself under the yoke and bondage of a physical commandments of Moshe. Now, are you blind? John 9. Are you blind? John 9. Let's go ahead and read that. Now, as Yahushua passed by, he saw a man who was blind from birth. All right? And his disciples asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that were born blind? This is how they were taught by the leaders, the scribes and the Pharisees, the Sadducees, is that you had these physical infirmities, it identified you as a sinner. They were perfect and holy and wealthy. They were not sinners. This made the population put them as victims and as needy of the temple access to Yahweh, because they were all poor and they were all in need, and many of them were infirm. And why were they infirm? Because they didn't have it was been over 1,000 years since they had the ashes of the ruddy heifer. Why was no healing happening in the temple? Maybe because there was no life in the temple. But they did not see that. All they saw was a judgment put on them and their neediness and their slavery to the temple access to Yahweh. If you had any kind of infirmity, it proved that you were a lowly sinner in need of continuing with this process. Here is Yahweh's shocking answer. Neither this man nor his parents sinned, but that the works of Yahweh should be revealed to him. I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. The night is coming when no one can work. And as long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. So he's saying a whole lot here. He's saying you're going to see a revelation. What does the Torah open up with? Let there be or. Let there be or has nothing to do with physical light. It means let the creation be full of the knowledge of Yahweh. And here Yahweh is saying it right here. You're going to receive knowledge. And I'm working now in the daytime because I am the knowledge of the world. You are receiving knowledge that you never understood before, though this is nothing new, but is newly understood. When he had said these things, he spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva. He anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay and said to him, Go, wash in a pool of Shalom. Yahweh Shua created man out of the dust of the earth, and out of his mouth, Yahweh Shua recreated this man right before their eyes. He's showing that he is the creator. And it says this has nothing to do with sin. This has to do with a recreation of a soul in need of a physician. So he went and washed and came back seeing. He went in faith and he came back and he could see. It's a two-part process to salvation. There has to be you have to have faith. You have to have, there's a process. You have to acknowledge your need of healing. Then you have to have faith in the healing by the one who is the one that you're confessing to. Go, be baptized, come back and profess. It's a whole process. It's not magic. It's not a blinking and a winking and a snapping and some kind of special saying. There's a process. Now, of course, sometimes that process cannot be carried out completely, like baptism. The man on the tree to the right, he confessed and believed. He was not able to come off the tree and be baptized. But if there's a way of being baptized, then the baptism must be done because of the symbolism of it. This is how Yochanan the Baptist began the ministry. He did it with baptism. This is how Yahweh created a nation out of a nation. He brought us to the sea of reeds. We are born out of water from our mother's womb. So he born us out of the womb of bondage. Therefore the neighbors and those who previously had seen that he was blind said, Is this not he who sat and begged? Said some, This is he. Others said, He's like him. And he said, I am he. Yeah, that's me. Therefore they said to him, How are you seeing your eyes open? He answered, said, A man called Yahweh Shua made clay and anointed my eyes and said to me, Go to the pool of Siloam and wash. Now this pool, the translation of that name is sent. That means you are sent. You receive and you are sent. You were chosen and sent. So I received my sight. Then he said to him, Where is he? He said, I don't know. So they brought him to him who was formerly blind to the Pharisees. Pharisees. See how they're supposed to see, huh? They're supposed to see. Pharisees are supposed to be seeing, right? Now it was a Shabbat, and when Yahweh Shua made the clay and opened his eyes, then the Pharisees also asked him again how he had received his sight. He said to them, Put clay on my eyes, and I washed, and I see. So now he's being investigated and interrogated by the Pharisees, and they told him the story of how he was able to see. All right. Therefore, some of the Pharisees said, This man is not from Yahweh because he does not keep Shabbat. Look at that. Because this man caused this man to see he is not from Yahweh because he did it on Shabbat. Now, if he did it on the first day of the week, they say he'd have been okay, huh? He did something that they could not do, but they did not see it in their blindness. What they saw in their box mind was a challenge to their system of access to Yahweh, to truth, to healing, to whatever is good, whatever you aspire. They come down with this. They condemned the man and didn't honor the outcome, the actions. So others said, How can a man who is a sinner do such signs? And there was a division among them. Some of them used their Yahweh given sense and said, wait a minute. If he's a sinner, how is he able to do something like this? This man was born blind. They said to the blind man again, what do you say about him because he opened your eyes? Here they go and challenge him again. Okay, now what is your assessment? Our assessment is that he's a sinner. What is your assessment? They'll make sure that he is under their thumb. That even though he received his eyesight, if he agreed with them, they would have been okay. They would have been okay. Still not acknowledging the miracle before their face. He said, he is a Nabi. He is a prophet. But the Yahudim did not believe concerning him, that he had been blind and received his sight, until they called the parents of him who had received his sight. Now they're saying, nope, now we're going to a third stage of this investigation. You're going to go ahead and testify this man is a prophet. Okay, we're going to pass you. Let's get your parents, because you weren't born blind. This is a trick. This is a hoax. Okay, let's go beyond you. So the investigation goes even deeper. And they asked him, saying, is this your son, who you say was born blind? How does he now see? This is folly. It's foolishness. And yet we can laugh at this today and not realize the folly and foolishness that we see on social media every day. Of people coming on social media and wanting more wives and condemning people on what they eat and drink and all these kind of things. To this day, still doing it in September the 3rd, 2023, the year of their Lord. You are just as foolish if you're doing these things as these men were then. His parents answered them and said, we know that this is our son, and that he was born blind, but by what means he now sees, we do not know. Or who opened his eyes, we do not know. He is of age, ask him. He can speak for himself. So his parents said these things because they feared the Yahudim, because the Yahudim agreed already that if he were confessed that he was the anointed one, he will be put out of the synagogue. Therefore his parents said, you go ask him yourself. Do you see the gripping fear that they had over the people? They had them paralyzed, that they couldn't move. They were feared for their souls, their very souls, because of the rituals that they were told they must have, they must go through to have access to eternal life. They feared that these men had control over their destiny. These Edomites, these leaders put up over them by the Romans. They feared that their futures, their being, their essence was controlled by what these men said of them. And what they said of them was that you must have access to Yahweh through the blood covenant of animal sacrifices and of tithing and of how we tell you how to keep the Sabbath and the feast days and all this. All this is the way, how you dress, how you eat. All of this tells you whether you're a sinner or not. And they didn't want to be taken out and marginalized and disenfranchised from that process. This is the power they wielded over the people. So they again called the man who was blind and said to him, give Elohim the glory. Give him the glory. We know that this man is a sinner. He answered, said, whether he's a sinner or not, I do not know. One thing I do know, though I was blind, now I see. He said, I ain't going to judge that man. I just know I can see. Then they said to him again, what did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? So they went back to him. He answered and said, told them, you already know and you did not listen. You did not shema. So now your body is really going to fall apart. First of all, you can't see, and now you can't hear. So now you know what's next. Their heart is going to be unchanged. That's got to be next. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you also want to be his disciple? That's a heart thing. Oh, have mercy to Yahweh. Then they reviled him and said, you are his disciple. Did we? But we are Moshe's disciple. Wow. They said it right there. They delineated between Yahushua and Moses. Are you today blind? Are you delineating between Moses and Yahushua? Which one? Which one? We know that Elohim spoke to Moshe. As for this fellow, we do not know where he is from. The man answered and said to him, why is this a marvelous thing that you do not know where he is from? Yet he has opened my eyes. Now we know that Yahweh does not hear sinners, but if anyone is a worshiper of Yahweh and does his will, he hears him. Since the world began, it has been. Now look, this man is getting deep. This man, he went to the temple every week. He kept Shabbat. He kept the laws of Moses. And here he is breaking down the Torah. He said that we know that he has opened my eyes. He knows that Yahweh does not hear sinners, but if anyone is a worshiper of Yahweh and does his will, he hears him. The man this is correct. If you fear Yahweh and worship him, then he will hear the sinner. And the sinner is turned and repented. This is Torah 101. This man is breaking it down to the leaders. Oh, he spoke up in power. Because Yahweh sent him. This is what the pool of Siloam means. It means sent. Yahweh Shua made him see and sent him. Oh, this is beautiful. And here he continues. Since the world began, it has been unheard of that anyone opened the eyes of one who was born blind. His whole purpose in life. Man came out of the womb blind for this purpose, to testify of the power and the kabod, the radah and the kabod of Yahweh Shua HaMashiach, to delineate what a sinner was and what he who he repents was, to delineate what is true sight, whether it's by light or by heart. If this man were not from Yahweh, he could do nothing. Hallelujah to Yahweh. From words from a simple man, not from the learned ones, but out of the mouth of babes, does Yahweh teach wisdom. The wisdom of this world is folly, is foolishness. That's why I opened up with 1 Corinthians 2 of what true wisdom is. And how those with uncircumcised heart cannot see what is right before their faces, cannot hear what goes right into their ears, so their heart is rock solid in darkness. They answered and said to him, you were completely born in sins, and are you going to teach us? And they cast him out of the temple. They cast him out of the temple. That's worse than them kicking you out of Facebook for a while, putting you in Facebook jail, isn't it? They cast him out of the temple. So that's supposed to mean that you are damned to eternal hell. That's what it's supposed to mean. And that's what they believed. But this man received the true light. Yahweh Shua heard that they had cast him out when he had found him. And he said to him, do you believe in the bane of Yah? He answered and said to him, who is he, master, that I may believe in him? He said, you have both seen him, and it is he who is talking with you. Then he said, master, I believe. And he worshipped him. And Yahweh Shua said, for judgment I have come into this world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may be made blind. Wow. You see, in the beginning, let there be or does not have anything to do with physical sight. Let the creation be full of the knowledge of Yahweh Shua. And this man who could not see light, now could see the light. He could not see light with his eyes, but now could see the light in his heart, in addition to having light of the eyes. Told Yahweh. So then some of the Pharisees who were with him heard these words and said to him, are we blind? Haim ata avil. Haim ata avil. Are we blind? So he said, if you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you say we see. Therefore your sin remains. They indicted themselves. They said it themselves that they were blind. Because here they are with eyes to see, and yet condemn this man as a sinner. They condemn themselves. Yahweh should put those words right back on them. Right back on them. I ask that question today to you, Yisrael. Are you blind? Are you going to go forward? Continuing, they made the delineation between Moses. They said themselves they were Moshe's disciples, not Yahweh Shua's disciples. Whose disciple are you? Whose disciple? So it's interesting how this in verses 1 through 5, of 10. Now we're going to go forward in chapter 10, continuing this narrative. It seems like it's seamless, but it starts off at Tabernacles, which is coming up soon. But now we're going to end up in what they call the Feast of Dedication in the Bible, but it's really Hanukkah. And if you go to chapter 10, we're going to continue on and reading these first 6 verses. Yahushua speaking. Most assuredly I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the doorkeeper opens, and the sheep hear his voice. And he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. And when he brings them out, his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. Yet they will by no means follow a stranger, but will flee from him, because they do not know the voice of strangers. Yahushua used this illustration, but they did not understand the things which he spoke to them. You see how this narrative goes from before at Tabernacles, not seeing, to now we come to Hanukkah, not hearing. We know Hanukkah is the rededication of the temple. It's the rededication of the temple access of Yahweh. So now Yahushua is coming saying, okay, you could not see. You did not see. You did not have the understanding of the knowledge of me. Do you Shema? Because we know that faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Yahweh. This is what increases your faith, not by what you're seeing, because you can be deceived by sight. Okay, now let's go to the heart of the matter. Do you Shema? Or do you hear? Do you have discernment between access to the Father? He says prior to this, I am the door, not a door. There's only one door, one access to Yahweh, and it's through me. Or are you going to continue trying to get it through this temple right here? Rededicate yourself to me. Hanukkah yourself to me. Get this to me. Oh, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. I mean, if you don't even believe in the heart, at least use your eyes and go by the works. Are these good works or bad works? Okay, if you don't want to go by that, go by with does your heart resonate? Now I brought this up a few months ago about this young lady who was doing her doctorate dissertation on it. I forget what the topic was, but I believe she was somewhere in Ireland, and she was driving, and then the road was blocked by 3 separate sheepfolds, and they all came together on this road. The 3 shepherds, they exchanged pleasantries, talking and all that, laughing and joking. Then they went on their way, calling out their sheep. They yelled their voice, and of all those thousands of sheep, this woman said, they all, through a conflux, through that big maze, went past one another, and all these sheep went to their prospective shepherd. And they knew because of the voice of their specific shepherd. They did not follow the other ones. Even with all those sheep bouncing about, sheep have good hearing, even though they have bad eyesight. And this is why we are called, we are his sheep, the sheep, we are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Because we are supposed to be led by the hearing, not by the deception of sight. We know in the last days, Hasatan is going to have great signs and wonders to deceive people by what they see. This is deep, boys and girls. Now, let's continue on Matthew 19, 1 through 10. I'm hoping you're hearing these things that I'm laying down here. Then we're going to talk about, continuing on in this narrative, B'milatar series. This is in Yahshua's own words. We can't get this twisted. About this marriage, divorce, and celibacy. Matthew 19, 1 through 10. Now it came to pass, when Yahushua had finished these things, that he departed from Galilee and came to the region of Judea beyond the Jordan. And a great multitude followed him, and he healed them there, because he's the great ruddy heifer. The Pharisees also came. Now, if he's not the truth, why are you following him? Let him go. Let him go. But they're always around this man because they know it's the truth, but their hearts refuse to receive him. They came, and here they're going to test him, right? And saying to him, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife, or for just any reason? And Yahweh shall answer them, saying, have you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this reason shall a man leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So then they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what Yahweh has joined together, let no man separate. So they said to him, why did Moses command them to give a certificate of divorce and put her away? Once again, juxtaposing Moshe with Yahweh Shua. See, they're the ones who keep throwing Moshe up in Yahweh Shua's face. They're the ones, because this is who they are living by and dying by. So he said, Moshe, because of your hardness of your hearts, permitted you to divorce your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. And I say to whoever divorces his wife except for sexual immorality and marries another commits adultery, and whoever marries her who is divorced commits adultery. So the disciples said, well, it's best not to even get married. Because they had so many ways of getting divorced, it was shameful. But Yahweh Shua is saying that if Yahweh put it together, you cannot tear it asunder. Once again, the higher application of the law, the spiritual application of the law is given right here. So we know that that is something that very few men can do. So we have, if the wife is given away to adultery, then or sexual immorality, then you're permitted to leave her. It has to be this is a intimacy violation. If she violates the covenant, then you are for rights of divorcement. Now we're going to continue on, because we're going through the entire ministry of Yahweh Shua, and eventually we will get to the end. We're getting there. Luke 17, 11 through 19. Luke 17, 11 through 19. Now it happened as he went to Jerusalem, that he passed through the middle of Samaria and Galilee, that as he entered a certain village, there met him 10 men who were lepers, who stood afar off. 10 is a complete, all right? And they lifted up their voices and said, Yahweh Shua, Master, have mercy on us. So when he saw them, he said to them, go, show yourselves to the priest. Yahweh Shua always wants an action of faith, a movement of faith before you even get the revelation of it. Move in faith. So they weren't healed at that time. He said, go. So they did go in faith, all of them. So it was as they went, they were cleansed. And one of them, when he saw that he was healed, returned, and with a loud voice glorified Yahweh, and fell down on his face at his feet, giving him Todah. And he was a Samaritan. Now, you think that was just put in there just to fill up the space in the book? It was specifically put in there by the writer to let you know this man was a Samaritan. The other 9 were Hebrews. Okay? So Yahshua answered and said to him, were there not 10 of you cleansed? Where are the 9? And were not there anyone found who returned to give glory to Yahweh except this foreigner? And he said to him, arise, go your way, your faith has made you well. Your faith has made you well. So these other 9 got made well physically. But how long is that going to last? Because you know that leprosy is the manifestation of a secret sin. So that means these other 9 are going to continue on in their sinful ways. Probably Lashon Hara, probably sexual sins, all kinds of things. But this man changed in his heart. And the record notes, the narrative notes, that he was a foreigner. This is an indictment against Yahweh's Iberite covenant peoples. The ones who do not see, who do not hear, who do not repent in their heart. Who is blind but my servant, Yahweh Shua says. Who is blind but my servant. We're going to finish up with Luke 9, 52 to 56. Let's stay in this same chapter. Luke 9, 52 to 56. This is going to finish us out for today. Are you blind? And this is the Samaritan in the village, okay? Now it came to pass when the time had come for him to be received up, that he steadfastly set his face towards Jerusalem. And he sent messengers before his face. And as they went, they entered a village of the Samaritans to prepare for him. But they did not receive him, because his face was set for the journey to Jerusalem. And when his disciples Jacob and Yochanan, James and John, saw this, they said, Master, do you want us to command fire to come down from Hashemayim and consume them as Elijah did? All right, old school. They want to get medieval and hard on them. They want to rain down fire because these foreigners did not receive Yahweh Shua. But we know prior to that they did. Okay, in the early narrative they did, when a woman came in and all that. They have a history of following Yahweh Shua, but this group didn't. So the lesson here is this, all right? But he turned and rebuked them. He didn't just say no, he rebuked them. That means he was chastising them, and this was a lesson, a learning period for them. Okay? And he says, you do not know what manner of Ruach you are of, because the Son of Man did not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. So they went to another village. So I wanted to end off with that, because this, in his own words, he rebuked them. He didn't just correct them and say no. In other words, you are coming with this old school, a liar, bringing down fire and killing lives and destroying people. That's not this not where we are now in this revelation of the Besorah. This is where we are now. We are now here in an era of healing and bringing together. We are here now and incorporating the Greek with the Jew, incorporating the Samaritan with the Hebrew. We are here now for incorporation, not for breaking apart. We are here not for raining down fire, but for raining down the water of life. Toda Yah. I guess y'all didn't understand the story of Jonah coming out of the fish at Nineveh to a bunch of foreigners. You still didn't get it. Well, that's it for today's segment. We're going to continue with Bimolotah's series in his own words. I'm praying that we remember, like he said in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, of having spiritual discernment for these spiritual matters. Toda Yah, Hallelujah, Yeshua, Hallelujah, Yahweh.